Hey everybody, Eve Harrow on Rejuvenation for the Land of Israel Network. It is very early in the morning. No, she's not that early, but I haven't had my coffee yet, so it's early. And I am in ancient Shiloh, or Shiloh for some of you. And I'm here with Dr.
Yes.
Dr. Scott Stripling. How you doing, Scott? Good morning.
Well, good morning. Thrilled to have you with us.
Thanks for letting me kind of land. And I know this is not an official thing to do, to come in and join a dig, but I'm here with my son for the next few hours because I love Shiloh. As some of you know, this is one of my favorite places in the land. So tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing here on the northern side of the Tel.
Well, our goal is to expose the fortification system. So we have a massive fortification wall right in front of us, about 5.5 meters wide. We're exposing the outside of it, the top of it, and the inside of it, because later people, this is Canaanite or Emorite, but later we have Israelite building into it, and then in the early Roman period building structures in as well. So we're trying to figure it all out.
Right. So for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure all of you do know, this is where the Tabernacle was during the period of the Judges, right? We come into the land with Joshua. Jerusalem is yet a distant dream, and this is the religious center for the Israelites, where the tribes are divided, where the Tabernacle is for, well, that's a question, right? Exactly, the time frame here?
Well, the Bible gives us a date of about 305 years. The Hebrew Bible kind of points to that. The Mishnah gives a little different date, 369 years in the Seder Olam. And so maybe the archaeology will help us clarify that.
Right. Yeah, I think the archaeology is crunching it, right, to just a couple hundred years, but we'll see. I don't know.
We see it more like 300 years.
Okay, cool. Absolutely. All right, so who's here? Like, who's this group of people?
We have a consortium called Associates for Biblical Research, 11 universities that are participating within that consortium, mainly from the U.S. We have a number of Israelis digging with us as well. But the team in front of us is from Lee University. I'm from the Bible Seminary. We have an archaeological institute at my school in Houston, Northwestern University, Yale University, Andrews University. So a number of great schools, and they all caught the vision of how important Shiloh is, and they want to be a part of it.
Right, so they come here for the summer, they come here for a couple months. What's the time frame?
We're digging for 1 month, but of course we have prep work before that, and then we have restoration work that we do on the walls after that. So I'm here for about 2 months.
Mm-hmm. How do you get permission to dig here?
The licensing authority here is through the Civil Administration of Judea Samaria, which is a branch of the Israeli Antiquities Authority.
Okay, but you're not new to Israel at all.
No, we've been digging here for many years. We finished a multi-year dig at Kirbet el-Makatir, which is 10 miles north of Jerusalem. This is 20 miles north, so it's exactly halfway. And what we believe is biblical eye of Joshua 7 and 8. And then before that at Kirbet Nisia or Sagot for 23 years. So we've been here since the 1970s, and it gives us sort of a regional perspectives of the highlands of Israel.
All right, so we're going to shut this down, pick it up as we go through, and all right, let's head over to where these people are sifting.
Okay, so what I was saying earlier is the excavation occurs in the square, and they're attempting to gather material in situ so we can get the best look at it. But, of course, we can't get everything. So then it comes over to a sifting station like this, and it's dry sifted. Then the dry sifted material goes into a mesh bag. This team is the red team. Then we've got yellow, blue, orange, and so forth. Notice that he's putting a tag in that bag for the locus and the pail. So the color tells us that it comes from this square. What's your square number, Doug? And then the locus and pail are marked. They're going to then take it over here to our wet sifting station, which is brand new, state of the art. They will then wet sift it and recover any other archaeological material. For example, you take a bead, a scarab, a coin. When these things are caked over with, we have a seal impression last week that's caked over with dirt. We missed it there, we missed it here, but when you wash it, it wasn't just a piece of dirt after all. It has something very important. So I believe this is sacred soil. Shiloh is sacred. It doesn't get any more important than this. And it's our obligation to have the utmost professionalism and care with this soil. And I always love, like Psalm 102, verse 14, O Zion, blessed are those who love your dust and cherish your stones. And that's how we feel about the work that we're doing. So while it's very difficult work, we cherish it. So once it goes through the wet sift, then we've recovered everything. We don't miss any of the evidence so that we're not telling an incomplete story.
Right. So what is your background?
Well, I have sort of a dual-track background as an educator, as an archaeologist, and my interest initially was in biblical studies. And so as I got deeper into the text itself, my fascination was what is a street? You read in the Bible about a street, about a house, about a wall. What do they look like? And this was just a fascination that ultimately drove me to archaeology, to understand that.
And particularly to Israel, because, around the Middle East, now there's so many places you can't even get to anymore.
Well, right. My interest has always been Israel and Jordan. And so I worked for a number of years in Jordan as well. But understanding the southern Levant area, what we call the land of the Bible, and giving us that regional view of what was going on in a transition from the Canaanite period into the Israelite period, and then all the way through Roman and Byzantine times. And we have everything here. Our profile starts in the Middle Bronze Age, and it goes all the way through to late Islamic period. So we have it all.
Well, there's the Bible doesn't talk about Shiloh too much after the Tabernacle's not here anymore. It's not part of the biblical story anymore. So you guys are trying to fill in those gaps between what happens when the Bible leaves off?
Yes, exactly. We have the first mention in Genesis 49:9, kind of a difficult passage to interpret. But a lawgiver will not depart from Judah, nor the scepter from between his knees until Shiloh comes, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. And some would take that as a messianic type of a verse. Then, of course, you have the whole 1 Samuel incident and all that's going on here. Perhaps the destruction of Shiloh by the Philistines at the same time that Ebenezer, which is 26 miles to the west, is destroyed. But then we go silent until Jeremiah. And in Jeremiah 7:12, God says to the prophet, "Go now to Shiloh, see what I did to it because of their wickedness, and make it known." In other words, Jerusalem, don't think I won't punish you because of your idolatry. Look what I love Shiloh, and look what I did there. So go check it out. And then we have many pilgrim testimonies. Jerome, the great church father, was here in the 4th century, 5th century. He said he could still see the altar at that time. And so we're just now putting back the pieces of history, and it's going to be fascinating for folks to see, to read, to visualize in the coming years.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know I'm also fascinated what was going on here, like during the Second Temple period. You got the Babylonians, the Persians, the Greeks, the Maccabees. Who was up here? What were they doing?
Yes, and yes. We had them all. We just found a Hasmonean coin a few minutes ago. Yesterday, we had several pieces of stone vessels that are typical of the late Second Temple period. So originally, when the Danish dug here in the 1920s, and then Finkelstein right behind us in the 1980s, early 80s, did 4 seasons. And then the Antiquities Authority has done some work. So we're the third major expedition here. And with better technology, you're going to see a drone flying in a few minutes. You're going to see 3D imaging going on. These supervisors are recording data on iPads, which is all then coming to my iPad so I can make data-driven decisions in the field, not just sort of instinctively. I feel like we should do this. I can actually crunch numbers on the spot and do that. But with better technology and scientific testing, hopefully we can calibrate and answer some of these critical type questions that remain from previous digs.
Right. Well, I mean, what a lot of people don't realize is to dig is to also destroy. So you're going to come up on something and say, what do I do with this? Because I want to get to underneath it. And those are the kinds of decisions that are tough to take.
It is, because we've removed a large Byzantine wall so that we could get to the older material. We recorded it the best that we could, and then we dismantled it. As an archaeologist, we get one bite at the apple, okay? It is destructive, and so we have to be meticulous in how we record.
Right, okay. So we're heading down to the wet sifting?
Yeah.
All right, let's go look. Okay, so we're standing near a massive wall now that Scott's explained to me is 5.5 meters. Let's do this in American. When will America go on the metric system? And anyway, we're talking like, 18 feet? Yeah, 18 to 20 feet. Thick wall that is now being exposed and connecting from what other people have dug here before?
Yes, we have the work of Finkelstein on the east, the work of the Danish on the west, and so we're going to connect to both of those, reopen their areas, re-clean them, and then open everything up so that when tourists come here, they'll be able to see what actually happened in this place.
So this is Canaanite, right? We're saying that This is what the spies would have seen when they come to the land, and why they get a little bit of like, oh my God, this stuff is huge. We can't do this.
Well, right. Technically, the Bible uses the term Emorite for the dwellers of the hill country. So we use Canaanite in a general sense. But more technically, these were Amorites that built this in about 1700, 1650 BC, what we would call MB2C in archaeological terms. And it was massive. So when these spies come, it was intimidating. What they didn't know, and that we now know from archaeology, is the civilization inside was crumbling. the late Bronze Age civilization here was in decline. 75% drop in population. The cities on the outside looked very imposing, but on the inside, they had major drought and all kinds of problems. And if they would just obey, they were ripe for the taking.
Wow. Isn't that a symbolic for things even going on today?
It's
like
a faith lesson.
Major empires, though,
absolutely.
that from the outside look scary, but if you really know what's going on inside,
and if you trust,
good.
you know, if you have a clear vision, if you're vision driven, then it all works out. Yeah.
And if you had faith.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. People say, well, what brought down the walls of Jericho? Faith. Faith that they had to believe that more was going on behind their back than in front of their faces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
So let me show you a Middle Bronze Age wall that they would have seen down here. And this will give you an idea of the size of the Middle Bronze Age construction. They're far more advanced than the later people. We think that history is linear and we're always progressing. That's not true. We have great regressions. Think of the Dark Ages. I mean, that's what brought it. Shiloh is occupied until the Middle Ages, maybe the Black Death or a Great Plague or something that finally brings an end to the civilization here. So all of this debris will be gone. And this is what you're going to see. These are Middle Bronze Age walls. See, nobody knew that was under there. And that's the type of construction that you would see the time that the spies were here. When Joshua from the tribe of Ephraim comes and sets up the tabernacle here, that's what he's seeing, is that type of wall that's connecting into the big city wall, maybe even forming an entrance into the city here. We've never found the gate.
Really?
So, maybe we're talking about a secondary type of entrance.
Do you think there's a gate here on the north side? Because I know they're busy looking for the gate on the south side.
Well, I agree the south is the more logical place, but in archaeology, things aren't always logical. And speaking of logic, the spring is right here. So why would they carry water all the way around the site, through the southern gate, and into the city? That doesn't make sense either. So maybe we have a postern gate or a secondary gate here on the north. And time will tell.
Right.
An archaeologist can dream.
Right. Or maybe there's another spring that stopped running. Who knows?
That's
All
right.
kinds of possibilities.
We have surprises. I would say I learn something new every day. And so this is fascinating work.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because the spring on this side is near where the tabernacle would have been, as we think, which would have been used for the mikveh, for the ritual bath, because you need running, living water. So I know that when I come up here with people and there's like, well, if this is a Jewish site, so where's the mikveh? And I say, whoa, that is a very much later construct, and you need living water, and the spring is right here, so it totally fits in from that level as well.
Fits even better. Now, perhaps a lot of people like the Northern Platform. It was Charles Wilson in 1866 that introduced this idea. Kaufman repopularized it in the 1980s, and about 2 years ago, signs went up here that said, the Mishkan.
Right.
We don't know that that's the place. It could have been the summit also. There's a massive bone deposit in Area D right by the summit, only bones from the biblical sacrificial system, full of late Bronze Age pottery, massive.
So you're saying kosher bones? I mean, no wild boar, no pig.
No. All only from the biblical sacrificial system. And that's up here. It's not really logical, again, that if the Mishkan is only here, they're carrying all these remains way over here to dump them. Also, the Christians later seem to venerate the southern approach. We've got all these church, maybe even a new church being exposed right now. They seem to venerate that area. My contribution is a fourth possibility, and that's that all of Shiloh is sacred and that the Mishkan moves around the site seasonally because it's portable. It's been moving for 40 years. It doesn't have to stay in one spot. The problem is when the wind is changing seasonally, the stench from the site, you've got massive remains. I know it's unpleasant, but it's a problem. Hygiene and smell and all. So I'm picturing the Mishkan being, yes, I think it was probably here and here and here and moving around. So let's think of all of Shiloh as being a temenos, a sacred spot, and not necessarily just one point.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's my thought, and I think it's catching on a little bit, I hope.
All right. Well, archaeology is really a living science. I mean, people think it's like, you're just digging through some old stuff, but not at all.
It's talking. If we'll listen, it's talking to us, and it's learning to speak that language. You think you're learning a new language, and my Hebrew is broken, but I pick up more and more all the time. I'm learning a new language, and archaeology is a language that when you become fluent in it, it's talking if you can hear it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Just amazing. Okay.
All right. Well, let's go take a look.
Okay. Okay, so this summer now, I see there's a lot of people here. How many volunteers do you have?
We have 143 registered volunteers working with us, but then we have a lot of day groups that come and work in too. This Friday we have an extra 35 people coming. Wow. So we will have between 200 and 250 people work at Shiloh this summer. It's the largest dig in Israel, so we're thrilled about that.
You have college students here. I know that sometimes there's programs you can come for the summer. You get college credits. You have an unbelievable experience. Yeah, you have that?
We do. We have students from several universities getting college credit. And then we have retired people. We have just people of all walks of life that are fascinated by archaeology and how it relates to the biblical world.
So you have a website you update, and how could people get in touch with you?
We do. It's real difficult to remember. It's digshiloh.org. Okay. So just find us at digshiloh.org. We just posted our week 1 update. Also, they can friend us in social media on Facebook. They can friend me, Scott Stripling, also Associates for Biblical Research, and they can follow along.
All right. So anybody who's in the land in the next month, going to be next month, you got to come to Shiloh. You got to see what's going on here.
Jeremiah 7:12, go now to Shiloh.
There you go. But you don't have to come at 6 in the morning like I did. You could come at 9 when the place opens. Okay. So Frankie Snyder is here. For those of you who remember, interviewed who was a couple years ago already. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Mrs. Opus Sectile from the Second Temple and all the great flooring that you put together.
It's been a great career that I never thought would happen, and I am so glad that it did happen.
And now you're here in Shiloh. So we're over at the wet sifting, some of the experience that you've brought here that they developed for the Temple Mount Sifting Project. So what's going on here? This looks pretty impressive.
Yeah, it really is. And Frankie's a good connection because we worked together. I was a supervisor at the Hasmonean project for a couple of years. And we became good friends, and now Frankie works with us, and Greg is the supervisor in this area. He also worked at Emorite, and then Steve, who's my engineer, built and constructed this state-of-the-art facility that you're looking at with a water tower, so we have water pressure, and we recycle the water as we're using it, and then ultimately it goes out into the fields and waters the fields. So you can see there's 8 stations, and as they work through there, they're recovering seals and scarabs and coins and flints and things that we would have otherwise not been able to record.
What's your most exciting find right now?
Well, we have a seal impression from last week, which is pretty cool. It's a faience type of paste, and probably from the Hellenistic period. Has a hole through it, so it's likely a necklace. We have a lot of jewelry, pendants and bracelets and things like that we recover here as well. But the pottery itself, to me, I find interesting. About 2,000 pieces a day, and the walls, the structures, the amount of animal bone. We have a zoo archaeologist that we meticulously gather all of the bone, and then we analyze it each year. And again, it's in the Israelite period, it's different from in the Emorite period. So you see a different material culture.
Right.
From that as well.
Right, those kosher laws are just popping up out of the
They
ground.
are, and as we walk over here, you can see the colors we were talking about. So the squares, there's the yellow team, the red team, the blue team, the orange team, the black, the white, and so forth. So we've taken that material, we've worked it, we've dry sifted it. Now it's going to go through the final process, and then it will kind of form the gravel kind of forms our floor ultimately for this work area.
Mm-hmm. Wow, this is really something else. This is so exciting.
Well, we're thrilled to have the honor of doing this work, and we just encourage everyone to pray for us, to come see us, to be a part if they would like. We take day volunteers, and we'd love to have them.
Okay, you heard that, everybody? Come on over. All right, let's walk over here for a minute, see what's getting sifted through. There's really nothing, I mean, because I've done this a few times, not here, but in other places, there's nothing like suddenly picking up a piece of the past that nobody has seen for thousands of years. It is such a thrill.
Well, that's right. You get a bead, a conical bead or a coin. I mean, maybe they'll work for hours without finding much, but then, boy, they get something, and that keeps them motivated for a long, long time. And it's neat that we've got some experienced supervisors mixed in with the new ones. And so they're checking their trays, making sure that they're not missing things. But this sharpens the eye. When you can spot the small finds, then when they go back to the squares, because we rotate people in and out so everybody gets different experiences, their eyes are sharp. Then when they're in the square, they can spot that bitumen and that flint and all these little things that maybe they couldn't recognize before.
Right. Well, the pottery here is the story because, right, you made your sacrifice, you ate it on a pottery plate, and then you broke the plate. And so there are just millions and millions of pottery shards in this whole basin.
There are. With a name like Eve, you'll appreciate this. The act of creation is really about pottery. You think of God taking clay and forming man, shaping him out of the earth, out of the clay. You have the primordial act of creation is really the act of the potter. And even God says to Jeremiah, go to the potter's house and see what he's doing with a flawed vessel. He puts it back on the wheel and he reforms it and he remakes it. And so even when we're dealing with this, there are faith lessons and life lessons that are involved. Yeah.
People tend to think of material culture as if it's gold, then it must be worth something. But sometimes the simple things are there.
It really is. One of the things that I think is important for the listeners to understand is you don't have to divorce your faith from scientific research. And sometimes people say you have to be secular or you can't be non-biased. That's not true at all. I mean, everyone has presuppositions and all, but we have the highest level of professionalism and scientific testing. We use carbon testing and neutron activation analysis, and the data is what the data is. But that doesn't mean that one has to divorce his or her faith from what we're doing. We see faith connections constantly.
Yeah, that's an issue that I know comes up, in the Jewish world as well, where some people say, don't dig, because what if you find something that contradicts the Bible? That's going to be a test of faith. But so much of what we have found here in the land not only doesn't contradict, but actually bolsters and gives us a new look into the Bible and the culture, the context of when the Bible is written and how the people are living.
Well, I like to say that archaeology illuminates the biblical text, okay? It's not that we're out to prove something. We want to illuminate. We want to shed light on it, set it in an ancient Near Eastern context so that people can understand what it meant to them then and there before we try to understand it here and now.
Amazing. Even just, let's say, when you find olive pits, and we talk about bringing olive oil, let's say, up to the Tabernacle, later up to the temple. What kind of olives? What strain of olives? What was growing here? Why? Were they trading with other people? And there's that whole field. I'm into food, so that whole field is just also totally fascinating.
Well, speaking of that, you'll see here what we do as far as our flotation. These bags right here, we take soil and out of important loci, we fill the pail with water, stir it up, and then we skim with these strainers. Mm-hmm. We skim the biobotanical material off the top, the seeds and this type of thing.
Grains,
yeah, and then it dries overnight, and it's tagged so we know where it came from, and then that will go to another one of our specialists so we know what their diet was. We know the flora, we know the fauna, and so what I do as the lead archaeologist is I ask myself, what new information can I learn? What new thing can we do? We already know this. Now, how can we ask the question differently from the material and gather new information?
You could also tell them when there was a famine or a drought, which would have affected. There's more wars when people are hungry, as we're hearing today, like up in Syria. That was precipitated by a lot of climactic events. So they had them then as well. Bible's not going to record that because it's not part of the narrative, but it's important to know.
That's right, and it gives a background to the text. When you think about three things to have a city, you're going to need water, defensibility, and access to trade routes. Well, here's our water. Here's our defensibility and the Patriarch's Highway.
Yeah,
okay,
right down here.
So you got to.
That's what I love about Shiloh. This is one of it's one of my favorite places for opening the Bible, opening the Tanakh, and just saying, okay, guys, now look around. And Abraham's down there, and the runner, who's probably Jonathan, is coming up from Ibn Ezra after the battle, over through that break in the mountains, and coming through, and you could just see the entire story, all the stories play out.
Yeah, it really does. There's nothing quite like it. It's sort of a living Bible, if you will.
It's the pictures. It's the pictures from the book.
That's right. Well, they're worth 1,000 words.
Okay, totally. Okay, Scott, thank you so much.
You're
Scott
very
Stripling.
welcome,
This
and,
has just been fascinating.
glad to have you.
And now I'm going to get to work. And
Yes.
as we said, going to try not to break a nail because there is a limit to the sacrifices I'm going to make.
Well, the only thing better than walking the Bible is digging the Bible. So now you get to do that.
Rolling up my sleeves. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Okay, so I'm sitting with Ruth, who is one of the volunteers here from Lee University.
Yes, ma'am.
Where's that? Where's Lee University?
Cleveland, Tennessee.
Okay. And so what is your background? What brought you here?
Well, I've wanted to do archaeology since I was just a kid, and I fell in love with biblical archaeology my first semester of college. And my professor, Dr. Peterson, was taking a trip to join ABR at this dig, and I raised my hand and said, I'm definitely going.
Wow. Okay.
So
your degree, you're learning archaeology in college?
I did my undergraduate in anthropology, and archaeology is a subfield of that. Right now I'm actually working on a master's in theological ethics.
Theological ethics. Interesting. Can you elaborate a little on that?
Yeah, I wanted to go into theological ethics because I wanted to understand God better and understand how humans are to treat each other in light of who God is. And that's a lot of what we study in my program. So.
Wow, that sounds fabulous. So what are you thinking about Shiloh? Is this your first time here?
This is actually my second season with ABR, digging at Shiloh. I dug at a square a little bit higher up the Tel last year, and we found a few walls. We found a bronze ring, and it was really cool. Down here, we're in a earlier context in Roman, around the Roman period right now, and we found several pieces of glass bracelets, a lot of rims from Roman glassware. We found a lot of pottery. I think we're coming down on a floor level right now. That's really exciting.
So, I mean, is Israel different than you thought it would be? And I know this is your second time back, so you're already an old timer, but like people talk about it. There's a lot of people outside who've never been here, and now you're here. Like, what are your sense of the country?
I really enjoy being in Israel. It's beautiful. I love deserts, and the fact that Israel has some desert and it has some more almost foresty area. I just love that combination. I just find it absolutely beautiful, and the people are great and so kind. I love being around here.
Really? That's wonderful. That's really so great. So you think you're going to come back?
Oh yeah, I'm coming back for the dig and just to be here to see the sights, go to the churches, and I've never been up north, like Galilee. I really want to go up there sometime. So.
Did they give you some time off? Like, tell us how it works a little bit when you volunteered, like that side of it. So you came with your professor, you volunteered. Do you have to pay to come? Do you get college credits? Like, how do the logistics work out?
Well, the way our school does it is that we can get a few credits, class credits. I'm not doing that. It's for undergrads. I did that when I was an undergrad, and you can get about 6 credit hours for the dig, and then you also have to read a couple of books and write a paper. So we come usually on like Saturday or Sunday. Volunteers will at the beginning of the week, and then have a kind of orientation on Sunday night, kind of explaining where we're going to be, who's in what square, who you're going to be digging with. And then Monday morning, bright or dark and early, because we wake up at 4. We have breakfast, and we start on the dig around 5. And then you dig every day of the week, and you come back. And then we wash pottery at the end of the day. You're digging, you're learning a lot of steps, a lot of very important techniques from your square supervisor. I'm an assistant square supervisor, so I'm actually teaching some of those now, which is exciting. I love teaching.
So did you know anybody before you came here? Or was this like an organized group, or just different people signed up and you kind of met when you got here?
Yeah, I knew a few of the people who were going to be on the dig this year. Obviously, I knew my professor. I knew my friend Alex, and my friends Mo and Catherine were going to be here. Everyone else are students that I kind of was aware of their existence, but I didn't really know. But we've built quite a camaraderie in a square. There's nothing that builds friendships like archaeology, I'll be honest.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess when you find something that hasn't been seen in hundreds or thousands of years together, it really connects you to your past.
It does. It's a really, really cool bonding experience. You should have seen us all gathered up in a circle around this one patch of pottery. We were finding just 1 or 2 vessels that had all broken in one spot, and everyone was working together, digging it back, trying to reveal all the different pieces at one time. And it was just really cool seeing everyone in a circle bunched up really close together and just having a lot of fun.
Right. Oh, that's so great. Did anybody trying to freak you out about coming here? Did they say, no, Israel's not safe, you shouldn't go, or you just kind of didn't listen to anything?
My parents were a little nervous for me. They just wanted to check in with ABR and make sure everything was safe, and wanted me to be careful. But other than that, it was pretty chill.
Yeah. And fine. And here, it's just
it's
life as usual.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty it doesn't feel dangerous around here, so
that's what I try and tell people. Just come, and it's not at all what it's pictured like in the press.
Yeah, it's quite different. But
okay. That's great. Thank you, Ruth. Okay, I'll send you back to work. I'll let you have a few minutes off, but Scott's cracking the whip, so I'll get you back to your square. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, it's Eve, and now it is Sunday, June 3rd, 2018, the 20th day of Sivan, 5778. Just wrapping up today's show. I did that interview a few days ago, in the middle of last week. And since I was there, they found a lamp from the time of the judges and the base of a very big jar from the Emorite period and a whole lot of other things. Every single day is just new adventures up there. I'm going to be up in Shiloh again this week, God willing, on Wednesday. I'm going to be guiding a group of women up there. So definitely going to keep tabs on what they're pulling out of the ground so that I can give that group just like the last information, really as it's pulled out of the ground. It's great in particular to be guiding the land this week. The upcoming Torah portion next Shabbat is Shlach Lecha. It is the portion of the sin of the spies. And for me, for sure, and I know for a lot of other guides, every single step that we take in this land, every place that we take people, that we take tourists, because that's what it said, L'Torah Ta'aretz. It doesn't say that they were spying. It says they were scouting out the land. But everything that we do now and everything that we show people is to push back against the sin of the spies, to show that the land is very, very good. And if you have faith, just like we said in the interview, if you have faith, then you shouldn't be scared. Even if you see these great big walls like the spies did and like they've uncovered in Shiloh and in other places, these massive walls that should inspire fear, I guess, unless you know what's going on behind them. And if you have faith that all is going to be good, then all will be good. So it's really exciting it's always exciting to be guiding the land. But this week especially, it's like you can't change what happened in the past, but you can make sure that the future is different and the present for sure. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And again, I'll keep you guys always updated as to what I find here. That's what I'm doing here behind this mic. I just a couple of logistical things. First of all, you can always write to me, eve@thelandofisrael.com. I get some really wonderful mail from you. Maybe I'll do a show one day where I read some of the letters that I get and where you let me into your lives, into your thoughts. And what a privilege that is. I got a letter, though, this week, actually from Religious Zionists of America, from Mizrahi, the organization that had me go out to L.A., to Beth Jacob, the Shabbat before Yom Ha'atzmaut, before Independence Day. We spoke about that. We did a show on that, the 70 for 70. But now they have morphed into Israel 360. 70 was just too small of a number. And they've got a whole speakers bureau, and I'm on it. And they are already booking people for the Shabbat before next Independence Day, which turns out to be May 4th, 2019. So I know that sounds really far away, but that's going to be a big Shabbat. So if any of you are interested in having me come to your community, if any of you have a synagogue that fits the criteria, I am thrilled to be there. Be in touch with me and let us, keep planning for the future, even as we're busy in the present. So thank you all once again for listening. And again, I love this interview, and I hope that you did as well. So thanks to Ben and Tabitha, Jeremy and Ari, and everybody here at the Land of Israel Network who work really hard so that you guys get a little bit of a glimpse of what is happening, the truth of what is happening in the land of Israel. And that way, we all keep turning the light on. So the light, the little nair, the little lamp that they found from the Judges period maybe is symbolic. It's a tiny little piece of clay, but it spread the light out so long ago, and that's what we are still continuing to do today. So take care, everybody. Have a wonderful week. Eve Harrow, Rejuvenation on the Land of Israel Network. Goodbye for now.
Josh Haston here, host of Israel Uncensored on the Land of Israel Radio Network at thelandofisrael.com. Make sure you check out my show every Monday, bringing you the news unfiltered and uncensored, information that you are not getting anywhere else, especially not in the mainstream media.
Israel Uncensored with Josh Haston on the Land of Israel Network